what is happiness? I think it's just basically being okay with where you are.
Not wanting
things to be different than the way they are. Not having the sense that anything is missing in this moment.
Needing something to change. Your current positive situation being contingent on an adjustment.
Correct. On getting something from the outside world. Ironically, I think most people, if you were to ask them when they were happiest for a sustained period of time, not for a brief moment, because pleasure can override happiness and create kind of this illusion of happiness. But if you ask people when they were happy for a sustained period of time, they were probably doing some variation of nothing.
That's interesting, because in the chase is this sort of lack, this contingency.
That's right. But then you get bored. If you just sit around all the time, you get bored. So you want adventure, you want surprise. Like there's the funny thought experiment of the bliss machine, right? Which is, suppose I could drill a hole in your head and put an electrode in, and I can put a wire in there, and I can stimulate just the right part of your brain, and I can put you in bliss. And you'll just be in bliss. Would you want that?
Might be nice.
For how long?
Do it and I'll tell you.
Right. So most people will say, well, I don't want that. I want meaning. I don't want just bliss. I want meaning. And you're like, okay, well, I'll put an electrode in there and I'll give you meaning. How about that? And if you kind of run this thought experiment long enough, I think most people realize, actually what I want is I want surprise. I want the world to surprise me, and I want to wrestle with it in ways that are somewhat predictable but somewhat not. And you kind of end up back where you started. So I don't know if necessarily, for some people, pure happiness is the ultimate goal. They want to, just be blissfully happy wherever they are, whenever they are. But I think other people, most people, would say, well, I'm here in this world, I'm here in this life, I don't understand it or why, but I want to be engaged, I want to be surprised, I want to do things, I want to accomplish things, I want to want things and then get them, right? That's kind of the whole game that we're all playing here. I think I would say that you're going to find a lot of fulfillment out of life by just doing what you want to do and genuinely exploring what it is that you want, rather than doing what other people expect you to do or society expects you to do, or what you might just think it should be done by default. I think most older successful people will tell you that their life was best when they lived it unapologetically on their own terms. And so I think a lot of happiness is just a choice, in the sense that you just identify yourself as, actually, I'm going to be a person that's going to be happy. I'm going to figure it out. And you just figure it out along the way. You're not going to lose your other predilections. You're not going to lose your ambition or your desire for success. I think a lot of people have this fear that, if I'm happy, then I won't want to be successful. No, you'll just want to do things that are more aligned with the happy version of you, and you'll be successful at those things.
People ask questions like, what advice do you wish that you would give yourself 10 years ago?
Right.
People ask themselves that question. Almost invariably, the advice that you would give yourself 10 years ago is still the advice that you need to hear today.
I don't want to tell anybody how to live their life. I would just say that to the extent that you want to improve your quality of life, the easiest and best way to do that is to observe your own mind and your own thoughts, and be a little, not necessarily critical, but be observant of yourself more objectively. And then you'll kind of realize your own loops and patterns. It takes time. It's not overnight. It's not instantaneous.
So you mean letting go is not a one-time event?
Yeah, and there's, letting go is not necessarily even the right answer. Like, yes, if you're trying to be an enlightened being and, you want to live like a god and everything's going to be perfect and be a Buddha, sure, you can let go. But I think in practice, it's actually quite hard to do.
Happiness is being satisfied with what you have. Success comes from dissatisfaction. Is success worth it then?
Oof. I'm not sure that statement is true anymore. And it also depends what you define as success. If the end goal is happiness, then why not cut to the chase and just go straight for it? I think you have to try that path. If you want something, go get it. I quip that the reason to win the game is to be free of it. So you play the games, you win the games, and then hopefully you get bored of the games. You don't want to just keep looping on the same game over and over, although a lot of these games are very enticing and have many levels and are relatively open-ended. And then you become free of the game in the sense that you're no longer trying to win it. You know you can win it. And either you move to a different game or you play the game for the sheer joy of it. When I look at my friends and colleagues, the ones who are still stuck in the past and have grown the least are the ones who were the proudest, because they sort of feel like they already had the answers, and so they don't want to correct themselves publicly. It could be as simple as you're trading stocks and then you don't admit you were wrong, so you hang on to a lousy trade. It could be that you made a decision to, marry someone or move somewhere or enter a profession, and it doesn't work out, and then you don't admit that you were wrong, so you get stuck in it. It's mostly about getting trapped in local maxima, as opposed to going back down and climbing up the mountain again. The great artists always have this ability to start over. Whether it's Paul Simon or Madonna or U2, and I'm dating myself a little bit. But even the great entrepreneurs, they're just always willing to start over. And I think that is a willingness to look like a fool, and that is a willingness to start over. A lot of people just don't have that. They become successful, or they become rich, or they become famous, and that's it, they're stuck. They don't want to go back to zero. And creating anything great requires 0 to 1, and that means you go back to zero. And that's really painful and hard to do. On the other hand, you still got to do something. You're an animal. You're here to survive. You're here to replicate. You're driven. You're motivated. You're going to do something. You're not just going to sit there all day. Unlikely. Some people do. Maybe it's in their nature. But I think most people still want to act. They want to live in the arena. I've found for myself, as I've become, happier is a big word, but more peaceful, more calm, more present, more satisfied with what I have, I still want to do things. I just want to do bigger things. I want to do things that are more pure, more aligned with what I think needs to be done and what I can uniquely do. So in that sense, I think that being happier can actually make you more successful, but your definition of success will likely change along the way. We don't spend enough time thinking about the big questions. We kind of give up on them when we're very, very young. A little child might ask the big questions like, why are we here? What's the meaning of life? What is this all about? Is there Santa Claus? Is there God? But then as adults, we're taught not to think about these things, or we've given up on them. But I think the big questions are the big questions for good reasons. And if you can keep the idea in front of you at all times that you're going to die and that everything goes literally to zero, what's there to stress about?
Yeah, for better or worse, life is very short. How should people deal with its briefness?
Enjoy it. Make the best of it. It's even briefer than that. Each moment just disappears. It's gone. There's only a present moment, and it's gone instantly. So if you're not there for it, if you're stressed out or you're anxious or you're thinking about something else, you missed it. So any moment when you're not in that moment, you are dead to that moment. You might as well be dead because your mind is off doing something else, or living in some imagined reality that is just a very poor substitute for the actual reality. So one of my recent realizations was, what is wasted time? What is a waste of time? So I don't like to waste time, but what is wasted time? And everything is wasted time in a sense, because nothing matters in the ultimate. But in each moment, the thing matters. In each moment, it's the only thing that matters, actually. What's happening in front of you literally has all the meaning in the world. And so what matters is just being present for the thing. So if you're doing something that you want to do and you're fully there for it, then it's not wasted time. If you don't want to do it and your mind is running away from it, and you're reacting against it, and you're wishing you were somewhere else, and you're thinking about some other thing, or you're anticipating some future thing, or regretting some past thing, or being fearful of something, then that's wasted time. That's time that's being wasted when you're not actually present for the reality in front of you. So my definition of wasted time, yes, I do want some material things in life, and there are things that have more value than others within this life, but this life is very short and bounded. So the true wasted time is the time that you're not present for, when you're not there for it, when you're not doing the thing you want to do to the best of your capabilities such that you're immersed in it. If you're not immersed in this moment, then you're wasting your time.
People get worried about dying and no longer being here, but they don't realize that so much of their life is spent not being here in any case.
That's right. And I think people crave being here for it. And when you're here for it, you're actually not thinking about yourself. You are more immersed in the thing, the moment, the task at hand.
We don't want peace of mind, we want peace from mind.
That's right. Yeah, you don't peace. The mind is what will eat you alive if you let it. And there's more to you than the mind. I also think like labels like pessimists, optimists, cynic, introvert, extrovert, these are very self-limiting. Humans are very dynamic. There are times when you feel like being introverted. There are times when you feel like being extroverted. There are contexts in which you'll be pessimistic. There are contexts in which you'll be optimistic. Leave all those labels alone. It's better just to look at the problem at hand, look at reality the way it is. Try to take yourself out of the equation in a sense. Like obviously you're involved, but motivated reasoning is the worst kind of reasoning. You're not going to find truth through highly motivated reasoning. You have to be objective, and objective means trying to take yourself out of it as much as possible, or at least your personality out of it as much as possible. And so to the extent you run with this thick identity and personality, it's going to cloud your judgment. It's going to try and lock you into the past. If you say, I'm a depressed and unhappy person, yeah, I'm going to be unhappy, that's a way of locking yourself into your past. Even saying, I have trauma, I have PTSD. Yeah, you feel something. There are memories, there are flashes, there are occasional bad feelings, but don't define yourself by it, because then you'll lock it into your identity and you're just going to loop on it. It's better to stay flexible because reality is always changing and you have to be able to adapt to it. Adaptation is also intelligence. Adaptation is survival. Adaptation is kind of how you're here. You're here because you're an adapter and your ancestors were adapters. So to adapt, you'll be able to see things clearly. And if you're seeing them through your own identity, it's going to cloud your judgment.
How much do you think that we should trust the voice in our heads? Because half of wisdom suggests to rely on your sort of bottom-up intuition, and then half of it has to be sort of top-down rational as possible. How do you navigate the tension between head and gut in this way?
I think the gut is what decides. The head is kind of what rationalizes it afterwards. The gut is the ultimate decision maker. If it doesn't, and what is the gut? The gut is refined judgment. It's taste.
An aggregator.
Aggregated. And it could be aggregated through evolution, and it's in your genes and your DNA, or it could be aggregated through your experiences and what you've thought through. The mind is good at solving new problems, and new problems in the external world that have defined edges, beginnings and ends and objectives. What the mind is actually really bad at is making hard decisions. So when you have a hard decision to make, I find it's better to, yes, you ruminate on it, you think through all the pros and cons, but then you sleep on it. You wait a couple of days. You wait until the gut answer appears with conviction and it feels right. And when you're younger, it takes longer because you just don't have as much experience. And when you're older, it can happen much faster, which is why,
And you have less time to...
Yeah, and old people are more set in their ways as a consequence, right? They know what they want, they know what they don't want. So it takes time to develop your gut instinct and judgment. But once you've developed them, don't trust anything else because you can't go against your gut. It'll bite you in the end. Usually in relationships that failed, you can look back and say, oh, actually, I knew it was going to fail because of this reason, but I kind of went ahead anyway because I wanted it to be this way, right? I wanted this person to be a different way than they are. Or I wanted to get a different thing out of it than I thought than I knew I was going to get, but I just wanted it. So sometimes desire will override your judgment and then trap you.
Wishful thinking.
Yeah, wishful thinking. It traps you into a pathway that chews up time.
What's that inside of yours? We think we can't change ourselves, but we can. We think we can change other people, but we can't. Just sink a little bit more into that, like kind of like that fuck you energy, that self-prioritizing energy, because I think people rationally love the idea of this. I'm going to do what only I want to do, even if they've got the level of freedom.
It's not fuck you energy in the sense that I think everyone should live their life that way to the greatest extent possible. Obviously, we have our requirements around work and obligations that are genuinely important to us, but don't fritter away your life on randomly scheduled things and on things that aren't important, don't matter, and events and weddings and tedious dinners with tedious people that you don't want to go to. To the extent you can bring freedom into your life, optimize for that, you'll actually be more productive. You won't just be happier, more free, you will be more productive. Because then you can focus on what is in front of you, whatever the biggest problem of that day. But also, another thing that I really believe is that inspiration is perishable. Act on it immediately. So when you're inspired to do something, do that thing. If I'm inspired to write a blog post, I want to do it at that moment. If I'm inspired to send a tweet, I want to do it at that moment. If I'm inspired to solve a problem, I want to do it at that moment. If I'm inspired to read a book, I want to read it right then. If I want to learn something, I do it at the moment of curiosity. The moment the curiosity arrives, I go learn that thing immediately. I download the book, I get on Google, I get on ChatGPT, whatever. I will figure that thing out on the spot. And that's when the learning happens. It doesn't happen because I've scheduled time, because I've set an hour aside, because when that time arrives, I might be in a different mood. I might just want to do something different. So I think that spontaneity is really important. You're going to learn best when you're having fun, when you generally are enjoying the process, not when you're forced to sit there and do it. How much do you remember from school? You were forced to learn geography, history, mathematics on this schedule at this time according to this person. Didn't happen. All the stuff that sticks with you is you learned it when you wanted to, when you genuinely had the desire. And that freedom, that ability to act on something the moment you want to is so liberating that most of us go through our lives with very, very little tastes of that. If you can live your entire life that way, that is a recipe for happiness.